There are two reasons to corral animals. One of them is to gather them together in darkness to keep them safe from predators, and the other is when they are being prepared for slaughter. This week, we have seen new ONS data which reveals that the UK is undergoing the most dramatic demographic shift in modern history. Roughly 2/3 of Londoners now identify as BAME. Forgive me, sorry, no, BAME is outdated. No longer the de rigueur way of lumping individuals into pejorative groups. BAME has been now superseded, at least by Westminster Council, with a new and altogether more sinister phrase, the global majority. Westminster Council are committed to inculcating this strange post-colonial jargon into the alphabet soup of acceptable modern parlance imminently. Yippee! Slaughter by cancellation awaits anyone who even quietly moves dissent that Britain itself is perhaps being colonised and we, the taxpayer, are being milked for the privilege. Our champagne-swilling friends, though, in their overpriced hutches off Upper Street, who spent the last 2 years having their Waitrose wines and Fairtrade Ocado avocados delivered to them by this revered global majority, sit in their kimonos proselytising about anything and everything Britain has done to deserve this cultural self-destruction and self-flagellation. So they raucously applaud on social media and indeed in all the media, clapping along in agreement with each other like seals at a circus about the vileness of whiteness which stains the faces and souls of their fellow countrymen. This week brought a new cause for them to rally around after a woman from Hackney, Ngozi Fulani, got invited to a royal garden party and looked a gift horse dead in the mouth. A horrifically privileged 83-year-old white privileged servant to the Queen resigned her position in shame after our weak-chinned king threw her under the bus for asking Ngozi the terrible question, "Where are you from?" In the meantime, Ngozi sauntered off back to Hackney for a costume change, safe in the knowledge that no white-skinned racist will ever ask where she came from ever again, for fear of cancellation. Where do you come from? It is the most innocuous conversation opener in history. But now it's firmly engraved in the woke book of racist slurs. A very British greeting now stopped firmly in every white British mouth as we are herded like dumb cattle too afraid to open our mouths at those who control our every thought, word, move or deed for our own good, herded towards safety or corralled towards the slaughterhouse. Usually I wouldn't care too much about demographic shifts or moderate and controlled immigration because the majority of immigrants settle into this giant shared field of ours, by and large adopt and adore the British way of life. But there are unsettling nuances to this development, not least the exponential rise in identity politics, blighting every part of our country's cultural landscape by people like Ngozi and the same old race baiters who sit glued to Jeremy Vine's chairs daily to opine about the evils of whiteness and the racist red flags of Richard Curtis. I mean, how can you cancel Richard Curtis? Crikey. How long then before us cheery cattle who have happily sought shelter in this nation's field amongst one another for centuries begin to become more stubborn and less responsive to the woke whip of the cancellation cattleman, driving us on down narrower and narrower paths of thought towards safety or towards the slaughterhouse? How long before we turn around in defiant stampede and bolt for those future fields where all cows are colourblind and all cows matter? Britain will only be a great green and present land again when we decide together that all cows need just to come home. And remember, chaps, identity politics works both ways.